Guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys what IEW looked like with my oldest this past year. We've actually done it for the past 2 years, but everyone had a really crazy year last year, right? We normally would have been in a co-op and covering IEW in a classroom setting where the kids were doing similar activities with one another. Well, everything crazy happened, and so the co-op kind of turned into online and, didn't quite work out maybe how we were hoping for this year. So we kind of made it our own. So I'm going to talk about it. I am going to share, we used the same techniques and we tried to go through it just like we would as if we were doing, our regular co-op. We tried to adhere to the rules and follow the normal timeline and the sequence of everything. But I will say, we're not IEW experts. I have 2 years, 1.5-ish, I guess, if you consider that this past year was kind of crazy. We only have 1.5-ish years under our belt with IEW. So by no means do I know all the ins and outs. I'm not an expert in IEW, but I will say that I love it. From what little that we have accomplished and how we have used it, I still love it. I wish that I had been taught this way, and I'm hoping that my kids see that they're so fortunate to be able to learn this way, because a lot of times when I was growing up, I just feel like you were just given 20 to 30 minutes and it was free write, right? Tell me about your weekend and tell me about your favorite toy or vacation or whatever it was. And you weren't really you weren't set up for success. And I feel like the process in which you use an IEW is setting you up for success. It just really is giving you a foundation. Start with this, and then it slowly builds you up to doing more and more throughout the year. And I love that approach. Instead of just kind of throwing you to the wolves and saying, write a paper about horses, write a paper about Brazil. It's, let's start with here and we'll build up to writing a paper. And at first we're just going to start with something very basic and we're slowly going to build up. And I love that approach. I feel like it works really well, and it really sets you up for success. So I have shared in my curriculum videos that my two oldest, my 4th grader and 6th grader, are actually going to be doing IEW with the videos and following the IEW course. So I love IEW. However, I don't feel that I am probably the best one to teach it. So I'm going to, outsource that to Andrew Pudua and allow him to teach it for the upcoming year. So, I will give you an update on how that is going. But for now, what I want to show you is a little glimpse into how we have used this curriculum for us in our homeschool, and just a little glimpse of what it looks like. So my oldest is the only one who has done it thus far. And I'm going to just show you how we started the year. So here I have his binder. I know I've showed you this in a video before of how I just keep things ready for our assessments. Honestly, we already had our assessments. We just had them a week or so ago. And I just picked this up in a few other notebooks. We were good to go because I keep it up to date as we go. But you'll see that in one of the tabs I have inside has to do with his IEW, his language. So if I turn to it, I can show you what we started with. So what you do in IEW, or how we did it, I won't speak for IEW, but how we used it in our homeschool this year, was that you, in the very first, in the beginning, you're going to hear me talk about things like source text. This is a source text. It was a paragraph pulled from a book, and it was about San Salvador. And it's essentially about Christopher Columbus. So our very first history sentence this year was about Christopher Columbus and discovering America, or the West Indies. And so this was our source text. So it was taken from a source. It became our, where we got our information. So we have a 1-paragraph source text. And the assignment, if you will, was to make a keyword outline of this source text. So you're going to see some underlining. So we actually had this printed out. all about about Christopher Columbus discovering the West Indies. And as we read, we underlined keywords, things that we thought were super important, that if I were to try and rewrite the paragraph, these were keywords that I needed to know. I needed to know it was about Christopher Columbus, that he discovered West Indies, October 12th, 1492. So those were the things that we underlined in the very first sentence. So let me pull this out. It's getting heavy, and it might be easier if I just have the piece of paper. So his very first assignment then was, we have a plain piece of paper, and this is called the keyword outline. So we took the keywords from our source text and we made a keyword outline. So you'll see there are 8 different points, and underneath you're going to see that under number 1, we have CC, discovered West Indies, 10/12/1492. So remember how I talked about that we underlined the key words here in that sentence? Well, he translated it over to CC, stands for Christopher Columbus, and that he discovered the West Indies on October 12th, 1492, but he did 10/12/1492. So when you're making a keyword outline, the IEW gives you a couple rules. 1, you can use a max of 3 words per line. It doesn't want you to get wordy. It doesn't want you to essentially rewrite the sentence under number 1. You're just making an outline. And then you can use symbols. Symbols do not count as one of your words. Neither do numbers or abbreviations. So you're going to see he used, throughout his outline, he uses CC and CC and CC for Christopher Columbus. So every time he referred to it, he knew that he was talking about Christopher Columbus. So then when he added the date, they were numbers. They didn't count as far as being part of his 3 words for the outline. You're also going to see he has some symbols here. I believe he's got a globe. He has a light bulb, which it looks like maybe he was trying to use the word ideas. He has it looks like a Japanese flag here. You can, do a symbol with the line drawn through it to mean that it not or no, or so did not know is probably what he was trying to get across there. So he uses symbols, numbers, and abbreviations that don't count. But the goal is to create an outline from your source text that you could eventually use just this to write your paper. So, and it's encouraged that once you have made your keyword outline, you actually put this away so that you're not tempted to plagiarize, right? A lot of times I remember thinking this as I was growing up, thinking, but why wouldn't I want to use their words? They chose the best ones, but I can't write it any better. But doing this and putting the key points here forces you to put them back into your own words. And some of them might be the same or similar, but you won't have plagiarized because you used a keyword outline and you've generated the sentences from your thoughts here without looking at the original source text. So the goal is, once you have this, that you could actually look back through the keyword outline, not looking at the source text, and be able to tell the story out loud from just looking at it. So I would say Christopher Columbus discovered the West Indies on October 12, 1492. I can make that sentence based off of his keyword outline. Now again, his keyword outline might make sense for him, but it may not make sense for me. But that's okay, as long as it works for him and he's aware of his symbols and his drawings and the things that he wrote. Someone else's keyword outline may make sense to them, but it may not make sense to somebody else. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. And obviously we did this back in September. So some of these I'm trying to make sense of, and they're not necessarily making sense to me at this moment, but I think they probably made sense to him in the moment. So, but that's the point, is that after you get done with your keyword outline, you should be able to retell verbally what's written in your keyword outline and have it make sense. So kind of like what you would do is on day 1, you would read, get your key points, and make your keyword outline. Day 2, I would probably have my child, okay, I want you to orally tell me what this is before you write it. I need to make sure that what you put in your keyword outline makes sense. Do you understand what you wrote? Can you make it flow into a story as you say it out loud? If it doesn't, maybe we need to go back and look at our source text again and work on our keyword outline so that it does make sense, so that we know before we get started writing. Because again, once we start writing, we don't want to look at the source text. So what we did is we would have done that, and then he would use this keyword outline to go ahead and then write his own paragraph about Christopher Columbus discovering the West Indies. And it may not sound like this, and it shouldn't, right? It should be to their level and to what they're, where they are at. We don't want them to sound like an encyclopedia, especially if they're only in 5th grade. So it's going to sound different, and that's okay. They build up, they gain those skills, and they learn tips and tricks throughout the year to get even better of a writer. So I'm going to kind of share some of those things as we go. That's the general idea. When you hear me talking about a keyword outline, that's the keyword outline. We took a source text, we got the key points, we put it into a keyword outline. Now, I think in the first week, maybe few weeks, that's all you're doing, is you're practicing this skill of making a keyword outline. So you want to get them used to doing this. So it doesn't even, the very first, I'm not even seeing a paragraph written in here. We didn't even write a paragraph. This was the first week's assignment. We were just reviewing how to get into a keyword outline. So we didn't write a paper on it. So let me see here. I'm gonna get these back in. So then following week, or after a week or two, then you're doing the same process. Source text, keyword outline. So again, this one we went to a science. So we were talking about vertebrae. So we were doing the human body last year. So this one took a science focus. So this was about your vertebrae. And then once you made the keyword outline, then it took you to the next step in the process, where we went from our keyword outline and we generated our paragraph. So this was his paragraph. The spine has 33 vertebrae, which are like tiny little bones. The bottom 5 bones of the spine don't move. So he just wrote his paragraph from his keyword outline, and you'll see that his first point on his keyword outline says spine 33V, bottom 5, he drew a bone, so bone, and then he wrote move with a line through it, so does not move. So we went from that keyword outline, what I just read to you, to that sentence that I said. The spine has 33 vertebrae, which are like tiny little bones. The bottom 5 bones of the spine don't move. That was how he went from his keyword outline to his written paragraph. So you are slowly building up the skill of taking a source text, moving it to a keyword outline, and then writing your paragraph. So again, that process continues for several weeks, where it's, doing the same routine over and over. Then you start to move to a source text. Again, we're building, right? We're getting more difficult. We're adding more stuff. We get to a source text that now has 2 paragraphs. So here is a 2-paragraph one. Again, we went back to history. We're learning about the Boston Tea Party. And so here you see that I have a 2-paragraph source text and 2 sets of keyword outlines for 1 paragraph and 2 paragraphs. So we are just slowly getting more difficult. We're building up. So here we have a keyword outline of 2 paragraphs, and then we have the paper that is a 2-paragraph paper that he wrote from his keyword outline. Again, not looking at the source text. So we're not tempted to use their wording. We're using ours from our keyword outline. So that is the general process. And it just builds up. You can have a longer one. You could have 5 keyword outlines that generate a 5-paragraph. You're also going to notice that there was no intro or no conclusion, because those aren't taught until later. They want you to actually, I love this about it, because I remember thinking, growing up, they always said, you want to really get your audience's attention in the intro and really just make them want to read. But you would sit there and procrastinate, or at least I would. I gotta have something good. I have to have something good. And I would stall out on writing because I couldn't come up with any attention getter. And so I would delay and procrastinate. And then it was finally like, I gotta put something together. I don't have any more time to delay. This actually teaches you, write the body first. So tell me what you're gonna tell me. Then you write your conclusion. So tell me what you told me. And then once you have done those things, go back and write your intro. And your intro is last, because this is what I'm going to tell you. Well, how can you tell them what you're going to tell them if you don't have that written yet? And I love that aspect of it, is like, write the body first, then your conclusion, and then go back and write your intro. And I feel like that takes that pressure off of trying to get this attention getter to really draw in your audience when you don't even know what the final product is going to look like. You can't tell them what you're going to tell them without writing it, right? So that's another part of the process as well. So as you get further in, then you learn how to write a conclusion. And then once you learn how to write the conclusion, then they teach you how to write an introduction. So again, another part of the process. They also have some extra fun ways of doing the exercises. So it might take, here we read on this one, this activity or this assignment took a different spin. So this was about how the camel got his hump by Rudyard Kipling. So we have a 3-page story here. And instead of doing a keyword outline for each of the paragraph of the story, we don't want that, right? It is a story. It wasn't a nonfiction text, source text. This was a story. So this one teaches you how to make a keyword outline based off the character and the settings, the conflict and the problem, and then the resolution and the climax. So you can see how my son did that, and some things, some notes that I put on, like after he went and used this to retell the story. Here was his story that he wrote from his keyword outline. You're going to see that after I went back and I wrote, well, you have some details in here that you forgot to include in your paper. So let's go back and try to squeeze these details in. So obviously, if they were important enough to put in your keyword outline, maybe we need to make sure that they make it into your paper. So here was his paper. Again, it's edited, trying to just show him how we continually make things better. And then it brought us to his final draft. So again, this is a week's worth of stuff here, guys. This is not something he did in one day. The first day would have been his keyword outline. So we would have done this the first day. Then we would have worked on writing our rough draft the following day. After that, we have this process that at least in our homeschool of how we were doing it, we called it dress it up day. And what does that mean? We call it, so there are things that IEW teaches you to add. You can see I have little check boxes up here for him to add into his paper. These are things that in the IEW process that they teach you to add to your paper to make it better. And these are things that you a lot of times naturally do as an adult, but it can be learned and it can be made easier if you just naturally start putting them in as a younger child. If you learn that these are things that make writing sound better, flow better, sound better. So they have a list of things that you add in. And I love the one thing about IEW is that he tells you do it as following the rule called easy plus one. So what does that mean? you need to do what is easy for your child and challenge them with one more thing. So each week he's showing you something more that you can add into your paper, whether it's a because clause or a strong verb or a quality adjective, things like that. You need to do what is easy for your child and then challenge them with the next thing. So you don't want to say, here's a list of 12 things that you need to add into your paper, when really only maybe 3 come easy, and then maybe you want to challenge them with a 4th. So that's kind of how we've approached it. I've kind of tailored it to Gabriel in the past 2 years as, okay, what's easy for you to do? What can you easily put in? Well, it's easy for him to put in a strong verb. He can recognize when we could find, oh yeah, I could probably find a stronger verb, something that, makes you see something a little bit more in your mind. He can usually find a pretty good quality adjective. He can find one like that. He can usually add in a because clause, but then there are some things where like a 3SSS, that is a little bit more challenging. And then that means 3 short staccato sentences. So like, he was thirsty, he drank water, he was refreshed. I used a 3SS. I did 3 short staccato sentences, and you can plug that in somewhere into your paper. It would probably be better than what I just came up in my mind. But it really adds a certain dynamic when you add it into your paper, and you wouldn't have that multiple times in your paper. It would be like one time in your entire paper that you would include that. But it's something that could give it a little more flair, if you will, by adding it. And so he wasn't, every once in a while we might be able to squeeze one into a paper here and there, but it was not easy for him to do. So that is how we worked. We did easy plus 1. And you'll see on a lot of my papers, I would give him a little checkbox, like, these are the things, let's try to add these in. But that was the process that we were using. So that was taking a story where we were finding the setting and the conflict and the problem, and then the resolution and the climax, and then rewriting the story. Again, just another example of another type of activity that they do. It's not just simply taking a nonfiction source text and writing it in a way that would be written for like a research paper. There are some other fun activities that they use. Another one that Gabriel really likes, and I actually find it fun too, is an activity like this, where they take 3 pictures and you're going to make a keyword outline based on these pictures. So like, I can show you what we used here. We made a copy from our IEW stuff of the central fact. Well, what was the central fact in the first picture? It was, he wrote, the lady is mixing ingredients. That was the central fact. And then you start to ask yourself brain questions. So he asked, well, why is she mixing it? What did she do before she mixed it? How was she doing it? And what was she thinking while she was mixing it? And he's just coming up with these ideas. So he generates a keyword outline based off those questions that he's just making up. So it's kind of fun writing, but he's asking himself questions to generate it. Then the central fact of the second sentence, or the second picture, the central fact that he came up with was that the boy added ketchup to the mixture. So then he asked himself more brain questions. What is he feeling? What's happening outside of the picture? And what is he thinking? And then we have the third picture. The central fact that he came up with this picture was that the mom is surprised and disgusted. So what happens, like, what now? What happens now? What's happening outside of the picture? So they even generate and give you these brain questions to help you think about, okay, well, what could be happening in and around these pictures? So it just helps you to create a fictional story based in using your imagination. And I will say that I think Gabriel prefers these kinds of writing activities to himself. But again, he had his keyword outline. It generated his rough draft where I gave him a checklist of things to try to include. We edited it. And we came again, we had to edit it again, and that led to him typing out his final fictional story about ketchup pancakes, is how he titled it. So that is just another example of some activities that they do. We've done something similar before, and this is going to be hard because I made a photocopy of one of our art appreciation photos or artwork pieces. So it's hard to tell, but there are some cowboys who are killing and capturing a grizzly bear. And so he used this famous painting by Charles M. Russell as his basis for writing another story, kind of similar to what I just showed you. We just found a piece of artwork and we went off of it and used it to create a story, like what happened before that moment, what happens in that moment of capturing the grizzly, and then what did they do after they captured the grizzly. So we went through a similar outline, what happened before, what happened during the picture, and then what happened after they captured the grizzly. And we went through this same series. We made our keyword outline, we made a rough draft, we edited it, we dressed it up with all of those things that I'm telling you, like a quality adjective, a strong verb, a because clause, who, which clause, things like that, till finally we get our final draft that is typed. So again, that's just showing you the process. We have done several different things like that. Another example that I'll show you real quick is after we have done a couple of those, we went to taking multiple source texts and condensing it to one paragraph. So here I have 1, 2, 3 source texts about manifest destiny. Again, we went back to our history. And so we have our source 1 keyword outline, source 2 keyword outline, source 3 keyword outline, and then at the bottom I have a fused keyword outline. So what that means is I'm going to take my favorite pieces from each one and I'm going to put it into one small outline where I'm only going to be writing a 1 paragraph paper about manifest destiny, but I took maybe 1 thing from here, 2 things from here, and 2 things from this source text, fused them together to make 1 paragraph, 1 written assignment instead of doing 1 on each. So again, this is teaching the idea of, like, if I'm doing a research paper and I have multiple sources, then I don't have to take everything from each source. I just take the things that I feel are important or relevant to what I'm trying to talk about, and I fuse them into 1 keyword outline. So again, that we went through the same process: keyword outline, rough draft, dress it up, and then I think we did another, that might have been a week where we didn't even have a final draft in there. But you can see that we have several of those different activities. Let me see if there's anything else I think we did that a couple of times. We did that again with Fort Sumter. We had 3 articles about Fort Sumter in the first, battle of the Civil War. So we did the same thing. We had 3 keyword outlines for the 3 different source texts. We made a fused one and we wrote our own paragraph from the fused outline. They have some more kind of like he calls it inventive writing. A lot of times growing up, we probably would have called it creative writing. He calls it inventive. So we did an inventive writing where we said my pet bunny, and we chose 3 topics. My pet bunny looks like, we made a keyword outline. My pet bunny's diet, and we made a keyword outline. And then we did my pet bunny's favorite activities. So we made a keyword outline about 3 different things about his pet bunny. Then we used that to create a rough draft, and then again our final. So again, lots of different activities, but following that same model. So one thing I want to show you is he does use this portable walls a lot. So this portable walls from IEW is really great it has in here, I'm talking, you've probably heard me through this video talk about dress ups. So they've got them here, adding ly adverbs, a who, which clause, strong verb, because clause, quality adjectives, and a www.asia clause. There are some advanced dress ups, and then he's got sentence openers, things that will help you get you started, some decorations. Here was the one that I was talking about, the 3 SSS. Similes and metaphors, having questions or conversation and quotations. Those are all some decorations that you can add in. Talking about triple extensions. Like, these are just, it's a trifold thing that has just lots of great information in it. It even gives you a list of the ly adverbs. So if they're struggling to come up with some prepositions, gives you some strong verbs to replace, like, I saw, the bird flying. Well, it could have been, I glared at the bird flying. So it gives you some stronger verb replacements for, see and saw and think and thought and go and went, which are not very strong. So this whole thing is just laced with like awesome stuff that can help in their writing process. Even making the models and the questions that we would ask. So I love this. I always have this out on his desk as just an additional help. He will refer to the list of the verbs and the ly adverbs throughout when he's writing. So if you want to have something, I think some of the kits actually come with this. If not, I think it's like $7. It's definitely worth adding on if you're, thinking about it. So I would definitely include that with what you're buying. All right. I hope I gave you just a general idea of the process. Again, I am not an IEW employee. I don't know the ins and outs. I have not formally taught this myself other than in my homeschool for the last 2 years. So I just wanted to give you just like a bird's eye view of what we are doing and what the outputs look like in our school year. We're not doing all of those things in one day. Usually each of our papers or assignments is over the course of a week where we make, and work on it all throughout the week. So don't let that overwhelm you. But if you have any more questions, as always, I am happy to answer anything to the best of my ability. I will do my best. Drop any questions or comments below. And until next time, guys, have a blessed day.